In a previous video whose YouTube address is given in the description section of this video, we demonstrated how you may set up an I2P Invisible Internet Project server and access it using Firefox with I2P Java router and proxy. In this video, we will show the mobile browser counterpart, using I2P Android router and Monocles browser. Monocles browser can be found using Google search. I2P Android router can be downloaded from Google Play Store. Reddit/r/I2P subreddit is perhaps the most accessible forum for beginners to learn anything about I2P. Start Android I2P router by pressing the long gray button in the middle of the screen. You may need to wait for a while until an active tunnel is available, shown below the heading tunnel with a yellow C icon on the left saying I2P HTTP proxy. Next, start Monocles browser, where you may choose a proxy by pressing the three vertical dot icon at the top right. Here we first choose none as we shall visit omniaxtar.github.io/m, which is the start page of OmniStar web mobile demo page. Once OmniStar web mobile demo page is loaded, scroll down and click the second button that says I2P mobile. You will get an error saying web page not available, as the I2P proxy for the browser has been disabled. Now tap on the three vertical dots at the top right, choose proxy, then I2P. You may tap the three vertical dots and choose refresh if the page does not load. You will be greeted with an alert window with the first line showing the I2P address of OmniStar web mobile demo page that begins with Y06 as GM and so on, and the next line is the PHP session ID 5UJI1B and so on. Finally, you will see a page with the first line saying Adam session IID, OmniStar search demo and so on. This is a clone of the OmniStar web demo using desktop Firefox browser shown in the previous video. You may see several more prompt or alert windows. Simply tap OK to proceed. Scroll to the bottom of the page, then scroll to the right. The user interface is not so intuitive as this is a direct port from the desktop browser. Before we continue to elaborate the operations of OmniStar demo page, we will just highlight a little trick for redirecting GitHub page link to I2P address, as GitHub page is one of the most common and transparent free websites, so redirecting to I2P address from GitHub page will be trusted by most users, as users may inspect the HTML and JavaScript code easily to ensure zero frauds. The button labeled I2P mobile maps to HTML code line 133, which in turn calls the JavaScript function m_oax mobile when clicked. Function m_oax mobile is shown in line 45, which redirects to I2P address in line 47 with window.location JavaScript variable. We must also pay attention and modify various default browser settings on Monocles browser as they differ from mainstream browsers such as Firefox. These settings are essential to make the back-end code, for example PHP, work properly. Notice the red button at the top right corner which indicates JavaScript is enabled. Click it to disable JavaScript and the button turns yellow. Click it again to enable JavaScript. JavaScript is disabled by default in Monocles browser. When you click the three vertical dot button at the top right, you will see cookies and DOM storage, and make sure they are enabled. These are also disabled by default. At the bottom of the menu list, Edit Domain Settings will bring up more options. At the third row from the bottom of the menu list, the page menu contains options such as User Agent, View Source and View Headers. At the top left corner, the three horizontal lines button opens Global Settings. The Settings option in the middle allows you to set some of the settings which we have modified earlier, such as JavaScript, cookie, DOM storage and User Agent. It contains many options whose default states or values may differ from mainstream browsers such as Firefox. It would be advisable to explore and investigate them when you attempt to port your web application code to niche browsers such as Monocles. You may zoom in or zoom out of the web page by pinching the screen with your index finger and thumb, zooming in by moving the index finger and thumb closer, and zooming out by moving them further. Scroll down by touching the screen with one finger and drag it up. Scroll to the right of the page by dragging the finger to the left of the screen. You will see a window with the nickname Adam at the top and 4 buttons at the bottom, each labeled with AUTH, Gen keys, send and get. Now we shall perform login procedure for OmniStar Web, which differs from conventional login as OmniStar Web employs public key authentication. Tap the IUTH button, which means authenticate. You will see an alert window with the last word being null, indicating unsuccessful login. Next, tap on Gen keys button, which will load a new pair of public and private keys. Tap OK to close the alert windows. Now tap the authenticate button again. Now the alert window shows a long string showing a PHP array with key PPK meaning public key. The browser now moves its focus to somewhere in the middle of the screen by itself. So you must scroll down again and move right to get back to the window showing nickname Adam. Now you may obtain the hash of the public key, which is equivalent to the Bitcoin address in OmniStar decentralized system, by typing myhash ;:, then press the nickname button labeled with Adam. You will see an alert window with the last word showing AJAX5JTM and so on, which is the hash of your public key. You will use this as your decentralized user identifier for subsequent transactions. This unassuming short hash code of around 12 characters is one of the most significant breakthroughs for designing and building decentralized systems, as it extends the Bitcoin address convention of the hash of public key to function as a decentralized user identifier. This is known as Omnihash, which means hash of everything, is an extension of Bitcoin address applied to non-blockchain digital assets. Metanarchy means global self-governance based on metaverse ecosystems. This term is derived from metaverse and monarchy. The second part of this video briefly describes the 8 magic words of OmniStar Web, being the mantra to help technical and non-technical users to remember and understand the principles of OmniStar Web, a decentralized web ecosystem owned and operated by free individual users and free software programmers. The third part outlines the goals and roadmap of Bitcoin Omnihash Metanarchy Revolution. BOM, the acronym for Bitcoin Omnihash Metanarchy or Bitcoin Omni Meta, sounds like yet another Bitcoin fork, but it is also a tribute to BOM, the original Turing code breaker machine used in World War II. The second part of this video briefly describes the 8 magic words of OmniStar Web, being the mantra to help technical and non-technical users to remember and understand the principles of OmniStar Web, a decentralized web ecosystem owned and operated by free individual users and free software programmers. The 8 magic words of OmniStar Web are: hash of public key, associate, concatenate, genethethos. The Bitcoin address, which is the hash of a public key, is generalized as a decentralized user identifier in OmniStar Web. Association of hashes defines ownership of digital assets, as in ownership JSON or equivalent data structure. Concatenation of operations generalize Omnihash to represent all types of digital assets. FOSScript simplifies all programming languages and unifies the user base of applications written in those programming languages to compete with existing social media platforms. Omnihash is used to track and monetize computing resources shared using I2P Invisible Internet Project, including processing power, network bandwidth and storage. This upgrade will be called OmniStar Obscurum Project or O2P. Trojan Supershell is a cross-platform and multi-programming language library with a very small footprint, typically around 10 kilobytes in JavaScript or equivalent, based on FOSScript, which is a fourth dialect. Supershell means it transforms any ordinary program or application into a full-fledged debugger which can be recompiled on the fly and accessible to a global decentralized web ecosystem. The third goal of OmniStar Web is to create decentralized social media platforms including decentralized artificial intelligence training and tri-species monetary payment to unify fiat currencies, cryptocurrencies and hash bullion. The fourth goal of OmniStar Web to achieve 0.1% of revenues of top 5 technology companies namely Microsoft, Meta, Amazon, Google and Apple by 2035, namely around $1 billion annually. The fifth goal of OmniStar Web is to establish Tai-Chi Metanarchy as an alternative solution to current US-China conflicts, where Tai-Chi views conflicts as forces in opposition feeding each other, and Metanarchy as a global self-governing system based on decentralized metaverse ecosystems.